Number 7. Blonde hair. Yes, most Vikings have blonde hair, but this was because their culture deemed that blonde hair was beautiful and attractive. So those with different hair color would usually bleach their hair with soap that contains a high concentration of lye. Historians also believe that other than it being a beauty ideal, it was also to keep the head lice-free. Number 6. Helmets. When you think of the stereotype Vikings, you'd think of horned helmets. Apparently, this was never the case. The only authentic Viking helmet ever found had no horns on it, and the depictions of Vikings during the Viking Age, which is around the late 8th century to mid-11th century, shows that they did not wear helmets with horns. Rather, the helmets they wore were the kind with simple leather and metal frames, which sometimes includes a face guard as well, but never horns. Though a long time ago, before the Viking Age, the Norse and the Germanic priests wore horned helmets for ceremonial purposes, and Thor was depicted with feathers on his helmet, which looks a bit like horns. So people must have took a bit of that and fabricated most of everything during the 19th century. Number 5. Weapons. From Stereotypes, Vikings are often shown with unsophisticated weapons such as clubs or axes, especially the double-headed axes. But no such weapon has ever been found from early medieval Europe. Rather, the Vikings were quite skilled with their weaponsmithing. They were apparently very fond of using the pattern-wielding method, where the swords were sharp, flexible, and shock-absorbent, not to mention how cool the blade looks like under the light. So the Vikings would use swords and spears rather than oversized double-headed axes. When they do use axes, the axes were normally the usual one-headed single-handed axes. Number 4. Hygiene. From all sorts of media, the Vikings are always depicted as dirty, stinky, unkempt men and women, but the truth is exactly the opposite. They were very into their grooming and vanity, that the common artifacts found from excavations were grooming utensils such as combs, razors, tweezers, and ear cleaners. The excavations even found out that they also used and made soap rather than just using water to clean. They were so clean, in fact, at least for that age's standard, they actually have a reputation for their excessive cleanliness because they bathe once a week. Now, for bathing once a week and called excessively clean was because most Europeans at that time had less frequent baths than that. It was a very unhygienic age. But, of course, the ones being out at sea for long periods of time would be filthy. The ones that weren't out and about were the ones that could keep themselves clean. Number 3. Vikings. Vikings are actually not just one group of people from one country. Rather, the word Viking is similar to the word pirates or sailors or even voyagers, or something along the lines of, "I'm going Viking today," that kind of Viking. It's something they do. So technically it's when Scandinavians took part in sea expeditions. Anyways, each group of Vikings have their own chieftain which ruled over a small area of land, and different Vikings have different things that they do. There are a few theories as to why the Vikings have many different settlements. Some say it's because of the expansion of Christianity and made the people divided, while others say it's because of overpopulation and not enough farmland for everyone. There's also the theory that because of the decline in profit when the Roman Empire fell, they had to go explore and find new trading routes. So mostly they did what they needed to survive. Thus their settlements have reached as far as North Africa, Russia, Greenland, and even North America. It was said that the Vikings were the first Europeans to set foot on North America, which happened 500 years before Christopher Columbus, though what they found was Canada rather than America. Number 2. Way of life. Other than pillaging, raiding, and being ruthless, which of course some of them did, they were also farmers, traders, and explorers. When they don't go Viking, most of them would go home to their family and farm. The things they usually traded were amber, fur, weapons, wine, whalebone, seal fat, and jewelry in the markets across Europe and Middle East. Apparently, they were also active in slave trading. Of course, the slaves were usually the captured women and young men of the settlements they raided. Number 1. Stereotype. At the time when violence was a common thing, and it wasn't just the Vikings that pillaged and raided, why did the Vikings get the extra attention and given these misleading stereotypes? Well, it was believed that due to them mostly pillaging and raiding monasteries and churches, the monks and other religious people see them as barbarians, outrageous, and pagans. So those horns on their helmets were just a propaganda to make them look like Satan, and their depiction of what the Vikings were and the weapons they used were to make them look uncivilized. In historical documents, their invasion to other countries were mostly for retaliation because of the intrusion of Christian missionaries. So we can see the link as to why they always pillage monasteries